I started a club called Heritage Club where I was having lots of interest in art, heritage, and craft. And then it was a student club, but we actually started doing heritage walks, food walks, tours, and craft walks. And then we were generating our own revenue. We were inviting lots of amateur artists and folk artists and traditional music and folk art were used to be displayed in our campus, and that no, it was very educational oriented, but at the same time it was fun and entertainment. And from there, I started another venture called Virasat-e-Hind, and then it was later I changed to a venture called Karma. So I'm running that venture where we actually takes people and show them the city, the bazaar, spice market, and local heritage art and craft. Ahmedabad is known for its Islamic architecture and its Indo-Islamic heritage. So being an entrepreneur, I actually learned a lot. And then when I was a doctor student, I started helping lots of startups. My first consulting assignment was with Flipkart, and after 1 week, they kicked me out because they thought that I'm too smart to copy the model. But the CFO of Flipkart, who brought me in, he gave me a couple of other projects in Bangalore. So my initial years from 2010 to 2015, Bangalore used to be my second home. Every summer, I used to spend time in Bangalore and working with lots of startups. And then during my PhD program later stage, I focus on my research on SMEs. So I started working with them, and then as small micro medium enterprises and family businesses in Gujarat, and then so they had also very similar issues what startups sometimes faces. So then we actually I got to know about, so my research, my teaching, and my consulting all are mostly focusing on entrepreneur firms, SMEs, and family businesses. And I mostly look at issues of the growth, issues of the survival and sustainability. And in that context, I look at the innovation and internationalization. So this is my a small brief area of work. In terms of comedy work, I started 2015 first time in India, the association called Association of Muslim Entrepreneurs. We have around 10,000 members on Facebook. It's a volunteer-based organization. We have not registered, but we have been conducting workshops across India, and we have conducted more than 150 workshops across India. We mentor, guide people. And then Rifa Jamaat of Islam Hind came to know about that, and they decided to start Rifa Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So I'm working as an advisor to them, and we always feel that there are lots of chances of collaboration than competition because they have wider reach. So we decided to collaborate with them, and then taking the objective of AME, Association of Muslim Entrepreneur, to help Muslim entrepreneurs forward. So with that brief, uh, uh, so I changed that title from bright and dark because yesterday I was talking to one of my students. He was starting his venture, and he was telling me, sir, when you discuss lots of issues of the entrepreneurship, you also talk about lots of problems with the entrepreneurship, and then why don't you add that part, and it would be nice addition. And I said, and always as a entrepreneur, as a teacher, you should always listen to your students. So I added that and see that how that goes with this group. So with that, what I'm going to do in next 45 minutes, I'm going to explain to you the basics of entrepreneurship, because I was told and I could see that lots of people are uh, having experience below 5 years. So it's around very young crowd is there, and they are either freshly passed out from the, or they are studying, or they just pass out from their graduate school or undergraduate school. So I think it would be nice to have give them some basic understanding of entrepreneurship, basic challenges what people face, and these all are what I found from my consulting and from my research. And then I'll talk about technology-based startups. To be very honest, I'm not techno savvy, though I did my engineering in instrumentation control in 2002. But the technology is not much of my interest. But now with this, consulting, you have to read a lot about that, and I'll talk about that how I transitioned from non-technology to a technology kind of orientation. So with that, let's understand what is entrepreneurship, and this is a very common definition you come across related entrepreneurship: the pursuit of opportunity beyond resource control, and this is very uh, famous definition of entrepreneurship. It has it has three major aspects to the pursuit: the opportunity and the resources controlled, and we'll talk about that. The first part is the pursuit. Pursuit is where the role of entrepreneur, the characteristics of entrepreneur, the attitude mindset of the entrepreneur comes in, uh, and that is what the starting point is. What I've been observing that people start their venture, but they don't have entrepreneur mindset. Either they have an investor mindset or they have employee mindset. So currently I'm working with a couple of startups, and one of the startup was started by one of the school teachers in Gujarat, and I had constant struggle to actually explain to him that the job entrepreneur is not 20, not 9 to 5, but it's a 24/7. The problem of his being a teacher in a school was he was in a very comfort zone kind of situation. When he gets anxious when there is some kind of uncertainty comes in his startup. So that is what is important, is that no, you have to understand that what with what mindset you are working. The entrepreneur mindset, where you are 24/7 available, you are have to be disciplined, because if you are coming late to your office, then your employee will start coming late. So you have to be very you are the leader, you have to know actually you have to be exemplary. But here, when you think that is my job is no from 9 to 5, or maybe I just put money and I invest and other would work for me, so then your work, your entrepreneurship will not give you the benefits what you are expecting. So, and that is what I've been seeing, that at another student of mine, his friend was very close to me, and he told me that he wants to start a organic milk farming business. And when and he was having his own spices business that was very successful. They were actually having the business capacity of 500 bags per day, but they were operating in 250 bags, and then he never explored international market. That is a big opportunity there. But because he was coming from this traditional business community and studied in top engineering college, he felt that it is not very cool to be in a business of spices and family business. It would be, and he wants to do something little uh, little cool to be called. And then he decided to get into organic milk farming, and then on his persuasion, I decided to do feasibility study. And then we found that there was a difficulty in at demand side and the supply side, and then there are lots of bottlenecks supply side, where the people who are managing the cattle are 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 not available, and they are having the scarcity of that, and sometimes the owners themselves have to manage the cattle. And then he told me, sir, can I hire a manager, and no, he would take care of that. So I told him, look, you are now investing in real estate, your mindset became the investor mindset. So so you have to ask yourself this first question: with what mindset I'm starting my business? Am I having a entrepreneurship mindset, or am I having investor mindset, or am I having an employee mindset? With employee mindset, you don't want to come out of your comfort zone. With investor mindset, you think that you will invest money, and then people will work for you. So, and some of the other characteristics or qualities of the entrepreneur would be a singular, the very focused approach. Lots of people come to me and they say, sir, I am a serial entrepreneur. Sometimes they say, I have multiple ideas. And first thing I ask my students to do is prioritize their ideas, and I ask them that, why don't you write your ideas in 5 lines on a piece of paper? So lots of youngsters, look, ideas are very abstract. You don't have boundaries of that. You put them in a paper, then it's easy that you know that what are the what. what you actually create boundaries around your ideas, and that is what is important. When you have an idea, when you have ideas, put them on paper and then prioritize them. If you cannot do that, then you are lost. It's not a no. And that is what is important. The entrepreneur is extremely focused, extremely passionate, very disciplined, very balanced, and manage time very well. So with that, the second part comes is opportunity, and the opportunity in terms of innovative offering, new business model, better, cheaper, more efficient offerings, and targeting new customer segments. So I give you a small example of this. No, a gentleman saw a girl. Uh, she was riding a cycle, and she had a basket, and she put uh, a, a, a radio in that basket, and then she was enjoying music while riding a cycle. And that gentleman found a new business idea out of that, and Walkman was invented. Later, Apple decided to actually bring 10,000 songs into a pocket Walkman, and that became the iPod. So you can have those opportunities of that. You see the interesting opportunity of enjoying music while moving. From there to how to actually make the compact device that actually save lots of songs. So you can see that the innovative offering was Walkman, and the later the new business model came out in the form of iPod. Similarly, there is another company called uh, 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 Explora Design School in Ahmedabad, and they actually got into the animation training and teaching in 2000, in the year of 2000, and they focus on tier 2, tier 3 cities. And they focus on the people, young graduates who couldn't get jobs after their graduation, are training them for animation and graphics and getting them jobs of 15,000 to 20,000. But Arena Multimedia and all these top animation schools were telling their students that will take you to Bombay and you will be working on Hollywood, Bollywood movies and doing animation. This school focus on tier 2, tier 3 cities, so graduates and undergraduate students, and offer them the educational training for graphics and design and animation, and got them job of 15 to 20,000 rupees in early 2000. And that became hit, and they had a 300 uh, uh, franchises across Gujarat, Maharashtra. So look at this, how you actually find a newer opportunity, or you newer business model you create, and then create opportunity for yourself. You can have a, as I said, the better, cheaper, or more efficient offering like iPod I mentioned to you. Maybe nowadays, if you look at this, no, this advertisement where some of the older age people are now talking about these diapers. So now I think there is a new set of this diapers are available that is for old age people, and now for last 1 month I've been seeing the advertisement related to that. People are that the old age people are saying that they're comfortable and it's important. They don't want to be dependent on anyone. So this new segment of customer, diapers are always meant for the children, and you have a new segment of customers you are targeting with that same product. So understand that where the opportunities are lying and what are the current problems what you are facing, and then maybe from that problem around you can be an opportunity for you. So you have to be observant. You have to be thinking about this. So we have Ayaz here and Wasim here. I'm working with them. They found this problem of traffic management and also the parking. They had their startup is focusing on the parking solution, and that now the government, also the private party, is also now interested in that. So if you look around and see that what are the problems you or your family or your community are facing, the ideas would emerge from that. And then the entrepreneur will be always working with the risk. So so a traditional definition of entrepreneurship would focus the two elements of this innovation. So I talked about that, whether you find the opportunity, and then you have innovative solutions, and then the uncertainty and risk. So if the entrepreneur is not taking risk, then that person will not be called an entrepreneur. So it's very very important to actually manage the risk and always dealing with the uncertainty, because the environment is dynamic, your context is dynamic, keep changing, the customer preference, people are exposed to different things. And that you need to manage the multiple types of risk. First risk is financial risk when you invest some money and start your venture. Lots of social risk associated with, because when you start business it doesn't work out, when you attend weddings and other seminars and your alumni parties and meets, people say, oh, you started something, what happened? Okay, so then you have this kind of social risk. Your opportunity cost, most of you now working with the top IT companies, and if you decide to get into entrepreneurship, you will you must be earning 2 lakhs rupees, 1 lakh rupees per month, that you are going not going to be earning. So that is opportunity cost for you. So financial risk, opportunity cost, and the social risk associated with that, and then you have to manage the dynamism of the environment. And these, in this context, you have to keep working and managing the risk and trying to mitigate the risk. So these are the elements of entrepreneurship, I think you should be knowing if you want to understand entrepreneurship. First is the mindset of the entrepreneur and the characteristics of that. What are the qualities you require? Then how you identify the opportunities, and out of that you find a newer or innovative solutions. And then third part is how you manage the risk associated with your business. Uh, so, come up couple of things are whether the ideas are always new, not necessarily. So I mentioned to you about this. No, iPod. iPod was not very innovative idea. The innovation was Walkman, but iPod was incremental innovation. That was you have the idea that you actually make it more efficient, better, and so most of 95 percentage of the businesses are working on incremental innovation, where you actually either change the processes, systems, business model, technology, and try to make the existing products and services more efficient. And uh, and that is what is important. Sometimes your innovation should be of that. If you don't have the market, so always in a business terms, when we at strategy, I say that innovation should have two important aspects. The first is you should have the commercial value of the innovation. If it doesn't have the commercial value, and second is you should have the support of the complementary industry. So if you have innovative product, but you are not getting the resources, the raw material and the other things, you will not be able to produce it. The other side is if you don't have a commercial value of that. Take an example, the electronics typewriter. The electronics typewriters came in early 80s, and initially they were successful, but later the PCs were introduced, and then the electronics typewriter didn't work out because it didn't give the kind of business. And that is what happened, that no, the PCs were much efficient and better compared to electronics typewriters. So electronics typewriters were not innovative, they were innovative, but the market didn't accept it because the market accepted PCs. So that is how you have to also understand that no, not only innovation, but innovation with the commercial value, with adaptability and understanding the customer, matching the customer needs are important. We when we teach entrepreneurship in our business schools, what we do, we have a session called products and markets. So when the students out of design thinking course, they design a product and services, then we actually ask them to go and check whether the market will be ready to accept or not. And that is what you have to have a fit between products and markets. So that is what you should have a little clarity on that. Some myths: people say that my products are like this and we don't have competition. If competition is bad, competition not necessarily bad, and competition give you idea that there is a demand. If there's a couple of players are doing similar kind of they're pursuing similar kind of ideas, then it's actually giving confirmation. And I think what is the interesting part is you keep innovating in terms of product, services, processes, business model, technology, people management, and keep edge over the competitor. And that's what you have to do. You cannot think of some of the things, like you must be hearing the stories of that from your parents. Some of the companies very popular, like Mafatlal Textiles. Some of the companies were very popular in 80s. Nobody knows about them. Some of the unicorns were very initial 2000, when this IT boom and then internet came in picture. Couple of companies came, but then they died their own natural death. So you have to be relevant, and that is what is important. And the competition makes you to work towards being relevant. Otherwise, you get into that comfort zone. You get into that kind of zone that you think that nobody else is there, and you lose the battle. Very very important aspects of entrepreneurship is managing your time. So when I teach a course called entrepreneurship in practice, I ask students to go to field, go to SMEs, go to bazaar, go to traditional business communities and learn entrepreneur practices. Why? Because the whole business school and engineering orientation of entrepreneurship is a couch driven entrepreneurship. So some of them, they will have their Facebook page, some of them will have start something on e-commerce, they will go to CCD, and then they sit there, spend time with the friends and all and having cup of coffee, and then they think that they are a cool entrepreneurs. But if you see the effectiveness of them, that would be questionable. So what is important is how you manage your time, where your efforts are. And that is what is important is when I work with startups, I focus on that, where the time they are spending the time. Lots of people, they focus a lot on chasing investors or or getting into this networking events, but not putting efforts and time required for to developing their business or developing the revenue model. One of the startups I was working in Ahmedabad were in women health. They were chasing investors for 1 year, a very unique concept, but they had potential to generate business of 1 lakh rupees every month. But they were ignoring that because they were just attending all the startup networking events or chasing the investors, but they were not focusing on what are the multiple ways they can generate revenues. So what is important is how you actually utilize your time, energy, and efforts. So the investment game is a interesting game, but it's a difficult game. And what is my problem with Indian startups? The whole investment game is so overhyped. The startups don't focus on their revenue generating activities. And I was reading an article from Harvard Business Review last year, and they mentioned about some of the unicorns developed in uh, other geographical areas than Silicon Valley. Mostly they are from emerging economies, and some of them from London, some of them from Midwest. And then they found that these are the startups were getting lesser funds, and it was difficult for them to get the funds very easily, like so startups from Silicon Valley. They were more likely to survive better because they focus on their revenue, they focus on their growth, that is they can manage with the investment, and just their whole growth is not oriented towards uh, uh, investment based growth. And I think that is what is important, and I keep chasing. I think Wasim and Ayaz can can also agree with that, that how I'm chasing them to actually generate their revenues, because it's important that you should be self sustained. And also, if you ask yourself as an investor, you will like to actually invest in a startup that is generating its own revenue, rather having the speculation that they will have a monopoly and then they would. In Indian context, it's difficult. So, so I think you have to decide very diligently that what kind of game you want to play. Whether you want to play investment game, you want to play revenue game, or you want to balance between these two. So, golden rules of entrepreneurship: be ready for assumption shocks. We ask students to write all the assumptions. And
सेशन चल रहा है.
excuse me, Afsar bhai, some am I audible? Hello.
Yeah, yeah. I think
Yeah. Okay. There was
people
someone was
who are
asking question.
speaking, I request others to go on mute.
I thought you were saying something. Sorry. So this is what I learned from. So there is a startup funded by IIM Ahmedabad CI Center for Innovation in um, Center for CIIE Innovation Incubation of our Entrepreneurs, and they actually are uh, they were actually passed out from IIM Ahmedabad PGPX program. The name of startup was EduHealth, and they were having this kind of intellectual property where they did pilot study in Ahmedabad market. They were working with school children and they were doing the medical test on school children, and they were creating report, and those data used to be shared with pharmaceutical companies uh, uh, and doctors, and then they were getting money from them, and then also for test they were getting money from the school children. This is a very common concept in UK and USA where children can be part of this medical test, and then the initial issues related to health, especially some of the issues of related to their hearing or eyesight, that can be detected in early age, so then that can be cured on time. And they actually did pilot, and around out of 100 schools, around 20 schools were ready to start working with them. When they actually launched the company and then started working, that not a single school was ready. They were saying what is their benefit, what commission they will get out of this fees, and they had tough time for 6 months. They didn't get visitors. So you have to be ready with assumption shock. And not only this, not the big startups, also big the company funded startups, like there was startup funded by Arvind Mill here in Ahmedabad. They also had a similar story where they actually, when they did a market study, they actually got very positive response, but when they actually launched, it took time for them to establish. And that is what you have to, list out all the assumptions when you make when you start a business, and be ready mentally and emotionally for assumption shock, because your whatever the planning would not work according to what you have wished. Second is, there are always chances of generating multiple sources of revenue. So there's, I was talking about this women health based startup, and then they had a potential to generate revenue from spa. They had ruled that they didn't want to actually advertise the pharmaceutical companies and doctors, but I told them that why can't they actually promote spa, yoga instructors, and dietitians. And there was a advertisement revenue they were ignoring about. And then when we actually chased the revenue for first or second month, they could generate around 1 lakh rupees of revenue per month. So there are always, so their business model was the women can ask 3 questions free to a doctor related to their women health issues, and then for advanced level questions, they should have an appointment with the doctor, and the doctor can also subscribe themselves and then be listed. So it was a very interesting model, and then they had some corporate types that didn't focus on, they were just focusing on the subscription related revenue, but there were chances to generate revenue from other sources, and that mostly startups they ignore. Lots of time there is a chances that there is a startup funded by CIA again on robotics, and they were into industrial robotics. And initial years when they in 2006-7, nobody was knowing about industrial robotics, and it was difficult to establish the market. The owner or promoter of the startup, they he was from Oracle. So what he was doing is going to engineering colleges and doing workshops on robotics. So actually sometimes what happens is, if you have left the job, you have family commitments, and you actually don't have enough money to survive for more than 6 months, this kind of secondary source of revenue would help you to actually to keep you going. Otherwise, it would be very depressing if you don't generate money on time. If you have a slow start, it brings lots of frustration. So it's important to have this kind of kind of activities. And but your focus should not be changed, and that is what is important. There's a secondary source of revenue, not the primary source. Um, so similarly, that Edu Health, when they were actually got in touch with a dentist, and then they started a dental clinic called Fine Feathers in Ahmedabad, till they actually could convince the schools. And now they are working with 1 lakh students in a year. They are doing, their primary idea is successful, but till the time the primary idea clicked, they started dental clinic, the painless dental clinic with a dentist. So that's how you actually actually can manage your risk and manage your time when you need a gestation period. So that would be better. Funds are not necessary for business. I always believe the good idea, passion, and extremely focused approach would help. Funds would definitely come. The funds are byproducts, according to me. Lots of people just they think that because they don't have funds, their business doesn't work. The business works because that is what I ask them to go. My students to go to traditional markets. Like I'm teaching a course for entrepreneurship design to SEP students. SEP is a very famous design school and they produce uh, best architects and interior designers in the country. And their students they think that their products are so design oriented that can be sold in the top stores. And I asked them to have a thela and a stall in a traditional market we have in Ahmedabad. This 600 years old Sunday market where with 1200 hawkers. I mean, they spend their 4 hours there. They understand that they get all kind of customers. Like India, what is beauty of India is you get all kind of customers very easily, and they could sell their designer products of worth of 1500 to 1000 rupees of lamps or a wallet kind of thing. They can sell in traditional market. Nowadays what happens when they have studio projects and they actually have innovative products, but they cannot sell. They go to traditional market and have a stall there and then sell in one day. So that is what is important. The business would work, but you have to have a passion. Not the money would not drive the business. Your passion would drive the business. Take care of people, and people will take care of you. And that is very important. This whole new startup ecosystem make people very arrogant, people away from the people, and is very individualistic. If you really want to have actually have a good startup or good entrepreneur firm, you have and you will not be able to do everything. You don't have expertise to do every function. So you need people, you need their support, and if you take care of them, they will take care of you. Very important, the relationship you build initial years will take you long. So better focus on relationship build based business and collaboration. Identify what are your weaknesses, what are your constraints. If there are people having the complementary resources, complementary skills, complementary competencies, collaborate and go forward. Don't think that you can manage everything. So these are the key concepts what I learned from studying or doing consulting. Now let's focus in next 10 minutes on opportunities in technology-based entrepreneurship. So these are the numbers I got from website for Inc. 42 plus. So 55,000 startups launched in India by 2020. 40,000 are active startups. 34 are unicorns. Uh, 7 years average time taken by Indian startups in reaching unicorn status. More than 54 startups are going to be unicorn or that kind of, they are in the pipeline to be unicorn. They are promising startups. Um, 3,202 number of funded startups. So the scenario is very promising. Out of that, look at the support of the startup. There are corporate accelerators, the companies like Microsoft, Escom, uh, Dell. Lots of companies are now supporting and sponsoring uh, startups and given the platform. VC-based accelerators and incubators are there. I've listed a couple of names: Acceler Ventures, ACCL Partners, uh, GSF Venture, Group. State-driven initiatives. You can read almost all the states, Kerala, and all the big states like are having their own set of schemes and set of support system. I wanted to mention here one initiative that I'm part of that is called with Maharashtra Startup Innovation Society. It's called MSINS. You can check online. So I'm writing a report on their performance of last 3 years. What is interesting about MSINS is started by this society is a part of one of the acts of Maharashtra government. It started 3 or 4 years back and it's managed by youngsters like you all from IT profession, from management and other areas. And what they do is they have this MSW week, Master Startup Week. During that time, they actually evaluate around more than 100 startups and select 25 startups. These 25 startups are given work order of around 50 lakhs by different departments of Maharashtra government. And that is so nice about this, that these MSINs actually connect after selection of the startup, they connect them to different departments, and the rule is that department must give them work order. So they do the tracing also. So one of the startups they actually got selected was into art and craft, and you won't believe, it's so fascinating to know that when they actually did the tracing, they came to know that every department has budget of minimum 5 lakh rupees to spend on art and craft. So now this startup got selected. Now they are getting work order. Recently they had a new governor in Maharashtra, so they just rented out all the art and craft pieces in in the governor's bungalow. So you can see that that's a very interesting initiative. Now, this Punjab government asked us to replicate that model. We submitted the proposal. Because of lockdown. Everything got stopped. But now after this March, we are planning to again replicate the MSINS model in a Punjab government. So wants to replicate this in Punjab. So it's fascinating work of MSIN. So lots of now government organizations are very dynamic. They have innovative ways of supporting startups. So use them. And there are 25 startups every year they select. So if you have a startup, please do apply next year for 2021. They have a panel of people. They bring the IS officer in every panel. They select these startups based on that no a sectors like education or health or sustainability or water management or waste management, or so that the different sectors, and then they bring that particular department managing that related to that. They bring the IS, and then the IS has great connection and ownership, because that IS is a part of that no, selecting the startup, and then later then he is also instrumental giving the work order. And when if he gets a transfer, then he also assured that the next department he goes, that the same startup gets some benefit. So this is very fascinating support system that lots of governments are doing. So use that. Then the privately run programs are there, and they you can take benefit. And then education sector programs like IIM Ahmedabad's Center for Innovation Incubation for Entrepreneurs, and then there's lots of private, like we have in Ahmedabad University, we have Venture Studio. We recently got funds from government to support biotech startups. So there are lots of interesting areas now government are supporting. So you get the benefit of that. So you can see that the numbers are showing a very promising picture. There is a good now in India there is a decent ecosystem is being created, especially Bangalore, Hyderabad, Mumbai, and Delhi NCR. These are the four major reasons where you see the major and ecosystem is much developed compared to cities like Ahmedabad or other small towns. So Nescom estimated 7,500 odd technology startups in India by 2018, and around 1,200 are deep tech-based companies. And this is what the opportunities are lying. The deep phase companies are those who are using artificial intelligence, IoT, blockchain, machine learning, cybersecurity. These augmented virtual reality. These are the areas the future would be. The entry of the big companies like Reliance and Tata is investing and collaborating with tech startups. And then a large number of startups compared to developed countries are focusing on health, education, food, energy, sustainability, environment, financial services, housing. So if you study the unicorns coming out of emerging economy, majority of them are in this domain. And you may know that in India, uh, we have to do a lot in this area. So there is lots of opportunities are lying there. Hmm. So some of the last important tips, if you are focused on tech-based startup, balanced growth is very important. I mentioned to you earlier. So there is an example of Zona as Zambian startup. They are into financial services, and those financial services to unbanked customers, and they actually try to give easy, quick, safe, but not free. So sometimes what people think that if we give them free services, we can bring more people on board, and then later we can show to the investors, and then that's how we can actually get some funds, and then they will pour the funds, and then later we will have a more funds, and we will actually have wider reach, and then we'll have monopolistic kind of business. But that is not the case. So like no small, that the emerging markets or the poor countries or developing countries where the startups, those are unicorns, they focus to generate revenue with that their investment plans. So that is, you can see there's no zonas example, you can read more about that. Though the Zambia has 60 percentage of the population is in poverty, but you see that they have 1 million customers in few years. uh, so the tagline is startups are force-fed capital only to collapse under weight of hyper growth. And you have seen that housing.com to lots of other startups, because of the lots of pressure from the investors to perform and to actually have a very kind of hyper growth, the startups collapse because of the lots of issues. So now you have to understand that if you are tech the startup and it could generate revenue, focus on revenue with investment, and then focus that how you actually, and don't think that no, from the poor of the from the emerging market like India, or when the people have a price sensitive, or people have a less pocket size, they will not be able to pay. If you have innovative solution and you have innovative ideas, people are ready to pay. They might be ready to pay premium also. Then solving real problems. So Rivigo is a logistic company based in India, and they actually are. What the challenge is to be in logistic is the driver starts his journey, and then from Delhi to Bangalore, and then sometimes the delivery will not be taken, and then he has to come back, and in that whole process, and he has to travel for 3 4 days going and coming, and around in 1 week he comes back, he's tired, he's not getting paid well, and it was very inefficient way of logistics, the way we in India, and it's very expensive affair. So Revigo focused on that, and then the driver would not actually will take the delivery from Delhi to Bangalore, but he will actually leave the delivery at around maybe Delhi and Haryana border, from Haryana border to or Rajasthan border, Rajasthan to the Gujarat border, and that's how the every driver will actually can do the run the marathon kind of thing, where they actually uh, pass on the delivery from one place to the other place, and also collects the delivery from that same driver to bring that back. And then they actually have very efficient system that helps to have a better opportunity for drivers. They are called pilots, and they earn better, they are more efficient, they can go home in the evening and relax and with the family. And that's how they actually manage that, and now they have 10,000 trucks, and they have more than 5,000 micro and small businesses working with them. So it's a kind of no the real uh, problems. If you solve, then you have interesting business opportunities like that. And then investing in the global talent. The talent is big problem. Whenever I work with companies, SMEs, a family business, getting a good talented people, because most of them are working with Googles and Amazon and Accenture and all this. Some of you are here. The best talents are working with all the top companies. So getting the talented people are, so lots of tech-based startups, what they do. And now after COVID, we know that people can work from the distance, people can work remotely, and this is the numbers are last year numbers. So getting the talent is, so like Zyper is a website automation venture founded in Missouri, and they actually have more than 250 people working for them. They belong to 25 states and 17 countries. So like no, you know that Seva is a cooperative society. They have the cluster of the cooperatives in different villages, and then the women to produce products, and they bring them in Ahmedabad, and then they sell. So sometimes you have to create those kind of clusters of pool the talent, and then you actually can bring them together. Zola is another African company that actually is focusing on solar power of off-grid homes. And then they realize that Africa doesn't have the infrastructure. So what they do, they initially they developed the product in Africa, but later they shifted the R&D in the San Francisco, and then from there they actually have a operation in Belgium, and then from there they actually bring the everything in Africa and install everything. So you can see that they have a wider. So they created the pool of people in a, or the cluster of the talent, and then based on the requirement, and then they are operating. For someone like in India, Indian technology startups, it's difficult. It is a, um, but maybe I think with this understanding of that people can work remotely, people can think of this. So these are the couple of things what I thought that technology-based startups should focus on the revenue and generating revenue with the investment, focusing on the real problems and focusing on the global talents. If you could do that, I think inshallah you will be better. Happy to take questions.
Yeah. Yeah, please, participant, you can go ahead with your questions. I think a very wonderful session from Abrar Bhai, mashallah. So
Jazakallah.
the
So I just wanted to tell you that I'm not a good speaker. I just love to teach. So in the classroom we use different pedagogy of teaching. So I think we have Fahim Bhai and lots of other people are good orators and good speakers. So, but I think I'm happy. Whatever I was knowing, I was sharing here, and happy to actually be question. And it would be nice to actually interact. Yeah.
yeah, you can unmute yourself and start asking questions. I think let me take this question from Shantanu.
Hmm.
How to sustain growth? That are instances when a company is doing great and then they decide either to expand or explore different sectors. Some find success, on the other hand, others fail terribly. So, Abrar Bhai, over to you.
So I think most of the startups fail during the growth stage. And that is the reason I focus on organization building process. Lots of startups they focus on either investments or get chasing the investors or chasing the revenue. They don't focus on building the organization. The building organization means the people, right kind of people, right kind of culture that become then bind them together, right kind of technology that support these people, right kind of systems and processes. And Shantanu, what is happening is what I've observed that the whole startup conversation, if you are actually looking at in a Indian context and ecosystem, people either talk about investment or they know revenue. They don't talk about how to build an organization. And so what is happening is the organization building process is very important because that actually brings strength. Like if I want to run a marathon of 10 kilometers, I have to train myself, yes, but I have to be healthy. I should be strong enough to actually run the marathon. And that is what the startups, they don't focus on that. So if you want to sustain the growth, have to have a good organization in terms of good team where they are just they know that what role they are playing, right kind of system processes that help this team to perform, that kind of technology that support and the culture that connects all of them together. If you and that is what one of the areas where entrepreneurs should focus on the building the organization with the building the business. I hope I answered that. Where and how to apply?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yusuf sir, are you talking?
Yeah, you.
yeah. I have a question, but like you please go ahead. I will ask after you.
Okay. Okay, where and how do we apply for as a startup? So, Nasir, you can apply, you can register yourself, and now So you can register as a company and then maybe as a startup, and you can ask any CA, chartered accountant, they will be helpful to you. And then later there are lots of incubation centers. They actually, you can connect yourself with them. So then they actually register them you in that incubation center. Mostly they are either funded by the government or private agencies, and then maybe you get the benefit of that. Lots of government schemes and lots of private parties are giving lots of benefits. You can be part of that. If you are, if you want to be part of some accelerator program, you have to apply and win the competition, and then you can be part of the accelerator program. Startup scenario in Islam. Okay, so how I'm going to read the questions, or what? How we are going to do that, Afsar bhai, or should I? I think a couple of people are asking questions
Yeah, yeah.
also.
So you can take this startup scenario in Islamic
Okay.
financial services.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. I think if you look at the Fahim, if you look at the unicorns came out of in Africa, Indonesia, they are focusing on financial services, and Islamic finance is a very interesting area. I recently did a big research project funded by Azim Premji Foundation, and when I talked to around 100 Muslim entrepreneurs across India, and I asked them that are they aware about this Islamic finance? And not many people were aware, but those who were aware, they were reluctant because they were saying that the cost of capital was very high. If you can create the financial instruments where the cost of capital or there's no uh, is not uh, cheap, but at least uh, equal to that the cost of capital people are actually paying to the other financial instruments run by the different banks and financial institutions. I think we have a fair kind of opportunities in this domain. So yeah, it is a very promising area, and I think maybe it would be nice to read more about the financial uh, uh, fintech startups in
I think you are on mute, brother Abra.
someone muted me.
Okay.
People had enough of meetings. Okay, so where did I? Where was I? Uh,
Yeah. So there is another question from brother
yeah.
Abrar. Is it helpful to start a business from unused house, cellars, etc.?
Yeah. I think like no, you know that Airbnb is kind of model that no actually people are that people can rent out their space, free space, and yeah, and then whatever happened with Airbnb we know, but I think there are fair chances of that. But in Indian context, it's important that you assure that the people if you have the right kind of checks and balances, you have the very strong system of operations to manage this. I think there is a chances of, of, of getting business in that domain, because Airbnb is already successful model. We know that people have unused houses and unused places in their houses, and that can be rented out.
Okay.
Then okay.
Another question from Shanawaz Bhai is, should everyone venture into entrepreneurship for sake of exploring the opportunities by not taking care of support in terms of basic necessary financial backing?
So Sanavas by that is what I'm saying, that uh, as I said, like couple of I keep talking to a couple of students and I say that why don't you just do job? It's okay to not necessarily everyone will be an entrepreneur. Everyone cannot be chartered accountant. Everyone cannot be uh, uh, IS officer. That's how similarly everyone cannot be entrepreneur. And it's okay to not to be an entrepreneur, but it's when if you want to be entrepreneur, then you have to have that right kind of mindset, and financial necessity are important. So yeah, if you have so let's the time what happens is when students they come to me and they said they have taken debt for their MBA program, and then I tell them that no, work for 2 years and gain experience. And what is one of the important aspects that I forgot, that entrepreneur should know A to Z uh, about that industry and have experience. So like lots of students of mine, they want to start a venture into food business. I insist that they should work in a hotel for 6 to 8 months. So maybe Sanavas bhai, maybe you can do that if you want to venture into one of the sectors, maybe work there, earn some money from the job, save that and maybe start. That way you can actually learn about the sector, about the industry. At the same time, you will actually save some money to start a venture. Yeah.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum, Abrar bhai.
Yeah.
Yes, Yusuf bhai.
Yes, so Syed Yusuf this side.
Yeah.
So you said there is nothing like no competition, and the competition will be there as there'll be some customers who will be needing a better product. As you said, we are onto food business and aggregator platform that clubs both vendors as well as customers. So the customers to get better food and for the home chefs to earn part-time by working on their passion also. So there are a couple of platforms that are working seamlessly on the same. But we tried out some kind of different business model wherein uh, we hided the chef's details, but it didn't work out well. So what exactly you mean by like what is the way to stand out of a competition, or like is it to work closely with the customer as well as to closely with the chef to understand their problem and convert onto a solution? So is this the way to go ahead in the right direction, or what exactly is the right direction in the way we can proceed so that we can stand out of the competition?
So Yusuf bhai, what is happening right now is the solution you created is a very top-down approach. Why did you talk to chef and customers, and then what are the pain areas? So like you talk to 100 people, what is the experience with Zomato and Swiggy? They would definitely talk about a couple of issues those are unresolved. Can you work on few of them, not all of them? And can you see maybe you can work on one of them, and then maybe can differentiate yourself. So what is happening is if you can just know, and that's what I think in traditional businesses, what used to happen used to buy the entrepreneur used to go to their suppliers, customers, retailers, distributors, and talk to and get the information. They used to say, माल क्यों नहीं बिक रहा है, माल कैसे पुश हो रहा है, all this they were asking, no? So that is what you also should actually talk to the customers, how is their experience, how their experience is different from other aggregators, what are the pain areas they are having with you, what are the pain areas they are having with them. If you just keep talking, maybe sometimes it's nice to know, detach yourself from your baby, and just talk to people. I think then you get lots of insights, and maybe then you think about what are the areas where you can work and create a differentiation there. Yes, Yusuf bhai?
Yeah, sure, Jazakallah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is another question from Nasir Bhai. Should we start big by applying for finances, or should we start small with our own finances?
I think you should start your own first, and that's what I'm saying. That lots of people, they think that I said, if the business idea is good, and if you're passionate, the look, India is such a big market, you will never having problem of getting the customers. The problem is sometimes you have your mindset that the because your business will not work because you don't have finances. So that is what I'm saying, that maybe with a smaller, and that is what I'm saying, that if you work in the industry where you're focusing on, you will get lots of, you will understand what are the challenges in this industries, what are the pain areas of this industries, what are the how the customers are behaving, how the suppliers are behaving, and you will get some opportunity that with that tuning, the people are ready to pay you advance money or premium also. But you have to immerse yourself in that sector industry, and that will happen through your field experience, through your through your exposure of that industry. If you are not going to do that, it will be difficult. So I think finance would come, and definitely if you have a good idea, definitely people would be ready to fund. But then the people will fund you once they know that you are well prepared. And the preparation again will come from the industry exposure and how you immerse yourself in the industry and business. If you are well prepared, thoroughly prepared for the industry and for the business, people would be happy investing because they want to invest. They have money to invest, but they don't want to invest to someone who is not experienced, who is also figuring out, and who is not confident about his startup. Yeah.
Okay, Jazakallah. So another question from Ansari Bhai, which field is suitable for startup in current scenario? So he
Sorry,
wanted to understand like
which
from where
field?
he can start.
It means that, like, if you are asking me this question, it means that you don't have the entrepreneur mindset. So Ansari Bhai, you have to look, nobody, not consultant, not an expert or trainer will tell you which are the areas you should focus on. You should focus on the areas of your interest. You should focus on that you're passionate about. If you're passionate about food, you start exploring the food opportunity. If you're passionate about it, financial services, then you actually explore the opportunities there. If you're passionate about real estate, you start exploring that. Asking someone else because it's your baby, yes, so others cannot raise your baby. You have to raise your baby, and that's the reason you have to be attached with that baby, and that is the reason you have to have that ownership and of that. And that, as I keep saying, that keep exploring yourself of your interest area, and then find out which are the opportunities are emerging out of that. Thank you.
So usually when you start a new venture, you start calling it startup.
Hmm.
As per government incubation center, what is correct definition to qualify for being a startup?
So I think the definitions are already there. If you search on that, um, so like if you register yourself, lots of time that earlier the understanding was startup was maybe if you have tech driven or e-commerce based venture, then they consider it as a startup. So there are two department are applicable here. There is a policy of MSME that again comes in play. So if you have a if you have a textile factory, and that is a new venture. So new venture is a broader umbrella under which you have startup. Those the understanding is that mostly technology or e-commerce based ventures are called startups, and the others are called. But now the we were like us are arguing that we should not restrict that them as and then all the kind of new ventures should get benefit of the startups. But yeah, still there is a major orientation is towards technology and e-commerce based ventures.
Okay, thank you. So there is another question from Fazan Nihal. I started a small organization to teach graduate students on some technological domains, but finding some difficulties to grab students. How to optimize this?
To teach graduating students for sectoral domains. Okay, so I think what happens is do lots of workshops. I think what happens is the workshops and seminars are helpful to connect with people. And I know that lots of time I had another student of mine. He wanted to be this trainer, the corporate trainer. I asked him to start this YouTube video where he would actually talk about one issue for at least not more than 5 minutes, or maybe Insta page. So you actually be informative. Just show your knowledge, that how deep knowledge you are having on any issue. And I think slowly people will pick up. I think now the social media, Instagram, Facebook are very very important tool to actually promote your talent, and YouTube also. So if you have a short clip of 5 minutes, because attention span of people is not much, and then you give a very informative uh, kind of uh, kind of you are very informative clip on that will be talking about the current issues or challenges, especially people who are studying for the career and for the other issues related to their studies, and then how the use of technology would be coming in play. Then definitely what people will connect. So imagine that 10,000 people are watching your video. Then I think I'm sure that you will easy to get around 100 people for your coaching institute. Yes.
Okay, great. So another question from Shantanu. If a startup comes with a revolutionary, innovative idea, works well and flourish, but sooner or later there are chances that big companies just pump up money in similar area and eventually offer to buy us or just get us out of business. What should we do in that situation? How to keep up with this kind of competition?
Shantanu, whether a Tata would come and offer you around 2 million rupees, or sorry, $2 million, will you say no? So I think it's up to you. Is no, if you see that no, you work, you slog yourself for 10 years, and you think that now, if you alone cannot make this company very very big in next 5 or 10 years, but with this, if Tata coming and pumping the money, can or Reliance can come and pumping the money, can make this startup a unicorn. Definitely, as an entrepreneur, you would like to take this business to next level. And I think it's your challenge. If you are confident about that, you don't need any support, then it's okay. But then why people think that because people spend their like 10, 20, 15 years, and the kind of benefit they were expecting, they were not getting, and suddenly that big companies are coming and giving a kind of chunk that they aspire to get in their life. So I think nothing wrong in that. But what I'm saying is up to your aspirations, whether you wanted to take this business alone with your capabilities, or you want to make this really big with the support of others. So, and then decide. And both the options are okay because both are related to different perspectives. Yes, Shantanu?
Yeah, Jazakallah. So another question from Zakir Bhai, is it feasible entrepreneurial education in schools? If yes, what is the approach teaching business to students?
Okay, by very good question. I'm working on that. The best way to do that is taking them to different context. So I think I'm teaching another course in IIM Calcutta is on understanding Indian bazaar, where it is on the marketing. So best way, if I want to start in the school level, I ask students to go to bazaar and business communities or traditional businesses and learn, talking to the entrepreneurs, going to their bakeries, going to their factories, going to their shops, and just observe how they're doing business. And then whatever they pick up, the kids are very, very observant. They are very curious. And then bring them that no those things they can bring in the classroom or in the session, and then they ask them, what did you observe? What do you want to, and then from there you link the theory and concepts of entrepreneurship. That's what I do. I teach a course called Entrepreneurship to Practice in Ahmedabad University. It's pretty popular. And similarly, I teach this course called Entrepreneurship Design Concept, where I ask first 5 weeks they go to the field and learn entrepreneurial practices from different kind of entrepreneurs. They learn from family businesses, they learn from social enterprises, they learn from startups, they learn from. But once telling them, the entrepreneurship doesn't exist in only one context of like technology and e-commerce. Entrepreneurship exists in different contexts, like family businesses, traditional business communities like Kojas, Boras, Marwadis, Parsis. Entrepreneurship exists in SMEs. MSMEs are large number of the second biggest sector after agriculture. Entrepreneurship exists in different traditional bazaars, like where they have shops for 100 years or more than 100 years in near just Charminar, or in Teen Darwaze in Ahmedabad, or Chandni Chowk in Delhi. So, and then they learn those entrepreneurs from their entrepreneurs and their context, and those are much more interesting for them. And then when they actually share the experiences, they actually you link with concepts of entrepreneurship and teach them what they should do, how to do, and all. So maybe the teaching should be, and I always believe the entrepreneurship teaching would be a teaching kind of facilitator. You can facilitate entrepreneurship. You cannot teach entrepreneurship. You just push people. So like if you want to teach swimming, you have to push your kids into water, and then maybe support, assure that he would not, he or she would not sink, but would be okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Another question from Nasir Bhai, is patenting the product more advisable while starting up or not so important? What is the method of finding out which other country market would be better for starting up and marketing your product? How do you really decide where to start?
So Nasir bhai, again, is very dicey question. I met a couple of startups. They had a patented product, but they didn't go for patent because they think that it's difficult to protect the patents in Indian context. And that is one perspective. The other perspective, like like I work with lots of grassroots level innovators. Like there is a gentleman called Mansukh Prajapati. He made a fridge out of mud. There's another gentleman called Mr. Patel. He actually made a groundnut nut digger machine. And couple of others are there. There is another gentleman. He actually created a water pumping machine from his Bullet, with the support of Bullet. So these are the people are supported by Shristi and National Innovation Foundation, and now they're getting for patents. So if you are getting support of the government body and they are patenting for you, they are actually registering patent for you, then it's a you are safer side. But if you're individual protecting your rights, so lots of people, so again there are different perspectives. So there is a risk associated that because in Indian system we are you never know how the documents can be actually misused. So you have to lots of time people I have seen that they actually register patent in USA, UK, where they are having better processes, systems, and more transparency. So again, it's your choice. Yeah, but if you get support of the government, definitely that will take care of their protection.
Yeah. So I think Nasir, my voice is clear for us. Uh, there is another question from Ahmed Bhai. For funding of startups, can you give few main sources which you connect details of investors, angel ventures, others? So he needs some information regarding this.
So funding style, can you give few main sources which connect details? Okay. So I think in my presentation I mentioned all the accelerators and incubators, and they are actually also there is a if you search online on the private equity firms in India or different cities, you will get the list of that. So maybe Ahmed, you can start with that. But also the government now, and as I said, different state governments are having that very interesting funding schemes. So you should always know when the government is ready to give money, you should. There is going to be the process will be slow. It will be tedious, but you should try. And
I think, yeah.
what is second
Second
question,
question is
Nasir?
about like how to find the market for its product in other countries.
Okay. So how to find markets, Nasir Bhai? There are ways. I think there is a present. I have a detailed presentation on this on RIFA Chamber of Commerce industry. Maybe I can share the link of that where I talked about that how to find a market in international, how to find a business opportunity in international market. So maybe I'll share with you. Maybe then it would be easier for you. Uh, my contact number is 9898462886. Maybe Afsar bhai, you can share the number
Yeah,
with the participant.
yeah,
Uh,
And
Assalamu alaikum, Abrar bhai. One more question from my side. This is Syed Yusuf. So I and one of our brother were discussing on the concept what I told you, an aggregator platform for the home chefs.
hmm,
So yesterday we discussed regarding building a community for the chefs so that the customer will be with continuous rapport with the chef so that he can provide the reviews on the dishes and all that stuff. So that will be just an aggregator platform and it will be kind of a relational business what you told like the transactional business won't work more than the relationship business what is there.
hmm.
So what do you say on this? Building a community and how exactly can you build a community in an application? So right now we have an application. So how exactly can you build a community in business? Uh,
So I think Yusuf Saab, I would suggest you to read more about uh, this cooperatives like Seva and Gujarat Milk Marketing Federation, GCMMF. What they have done, there's no Amul, the GCMF is known as Amul brand. So now look at that, how they actually aggregated the milk farmers and this informal street vendors. Seva did for women street vendors. What happens is you give them ownership, Yusuf Saab. If you give them ownership, you have a sense of ownership to them, then they should feel that this is their venture and they are equally partnering that. Rather, you say that no, we are bringing you all together for your benefit. So if you give them the sense of ownership, definitely people would be ready to collaborate and work for you.
ownership in the sense the continuous transaction between those two. Like from the chef
not
to customer.
necessarily transaction, but in decision making, in every aspect, profit sharing. So if you want to create a community, how you create a community? All the resources are shared. Yes, Yusuf sir.
Yeah, yeah,
How a prophet used to know, you think about the community, when the community come together for all the major decisions.
yeah.
So
Everyone will
as
be
I
happy.
said that no, because they are the major beneficiaries. So how the cooperatives work? They actually the beneficiaries are also part of the decision making process.
Yes.
Then they feel that is a relationship. There's a family. So when you have family, all the brothers will be consulted. No, when you have a major decisions in the family. Similarly, all this no beneficiaries are your brothers and sisters.
So from
I
the
hope I answered your question.
Yeah, in terms that I need to just solve their solution, that itself will trigger the business. That's all.
Then that's what I'm saying. Again, you didn't understand that. But I'm saying
Yeah,
the
yeah.
solving their yeah. So if that others can do that, what is the so that is what I'm saying that others can do also the same what you can do. But if you want to create, like give you another example of this young boys from they actually are college students and they went to Egypt and then they were having their leather chappals and lots of people asked to them about this and then later they started a venture into a designer leather shoes and then they adopted the whole village in northern Karnataka. So what they were doing, they were taking care of the insurance, medical insurance, their kids' education, and all these, the village was of the cobblers. They all came together to help this startup, and they are now making this only 500, 600 pairs of shoes, were designer shoes, and mostly exporting in different countries. So the idea is that these are the cobbler community. You are outsider, but what benefit you are giving to be part of your network? Only money, then everyone can give them money. What else you can give? Are you giving social security? Are you giving education to the children? Are you giving health insurance? Are you giving education training to them? Are you making them better to generate livelihood? So then they will be the whole village is supporting this venture because they are they are getting much more than the money what they can get. I hope I made it
Yeah,
clear. Yes.
yeah, yeah. I got
Okay.
your answer, brother Abrar. Jazakallah. If possible, I'll try to
Thank
connect
you.
with you directly, inshallah.
Sure, sure. Yusuf bhai.
so Abrar bhai, so for a
Yes.
startup, right? So keeping the people happy all the time with less finance, most of the time, because for the startup, like the people who are joining, they are also looking for some financial help, right? And even the company is struggling during that stage. So one of the factor for making people happy is this as well, right? So in what way we can think of making them happy? The golden rule of
If you
entrepreneur.
can,
I remember that slide.
as I said, that, so I give a small example of this. So I keep giving that I was given the talk to some of these MSMEs in Rajkot, and I met this owner of Balaji Wafers. Balaji Wafers is now more than 3,000 crore rupees venture, and so he started with selling the wafers in a theater canteen, and from there he became big. And he has more than around 3,000 employees. He was telling during his presentation that he has two family. So one is his own family, and other is his employees are his family. And I told him that how you assures that that the employees feel that he's a part, they are his family members. He told me that I have an administrator and he's not very performing very well. But I came to know that he got married. Then I called him with his wife and I gave him them a beautiful gift and I told uh, his wife to in front of everyone that He's a very loyal employee. He's a good he has all the skills and the capabilities to manage this job, but he could be better. And after that incident, so then his wife used to be inviting them and they were going. So all this is what happens. You have to have a personal bond with that no employee. And that is what is important. And I tell you, mostly people don't leave the job because of the issues of the pay, that no the salary. They mostly they leave the job because they don't get salary on time first, and second is they get ill treatment. So I think if you work on this, then I'm sure that people would. And then sense of belongingness. What are the things you should do? And that is what my problem with entrepreneurs is. They don't focus on relationship building with the employees. They don't focus on organizational building. They don't focus on developing culture. They don't focus on systems and processes. They just keep chasing the revenue and the investors. So I think if they focus on little internal side of the organization, I'm sure there is no problem.
Jazakallah. So
Are
any
we
more
done?
questions? I think
12:30.
yeah. So any more questions?
Yeah, I have one question. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Fahim. Uh, what I have observed is people from business background or from business community, they are well off in terms of finances, as well as the mindset in which you need to have the mindset for starting a business. Whereas it with non-business community people, there's a psychological barrier over there. What if we fail or something like that? So how do we overcome that psychological barrier for especially for non-business community people from the non-business background?
Fine by you ask any teacher when the first class he or she would teach will be when I started my teaching career. My first session, both the legs were shivering. But I think over the period of time, we developed the confidence, we developed the pedagogy, we developed the techniques to manage the students, difficult students, weak students, good students, and all. And that comes from the experience. So Fahim Bhai is very, very important. Why the business communities are having confidence? Because you see that the kids are during vacation on weekends they go and sit in their father's office. That's what here people are doing in a traditional business community like Baniyas, Sindhis, Marwadis. So then the children are actually observing the business and they are there, they understand the business, they're taught the business. And I think that is what is important. If you actually work in the sector, if you work in the, imagine that you are working with Accenture for around 10 years and managing the financial institutions and then consulting of that, then you are much more confident to bring a fintech startup compared to a fresh graduate will be thinking to get a fintech startup. Yes, so it's always nice to have exposure and experience and as I say, immerse yourself in the field, and that will actually help you to get a clarity at the same time get you the confidence. Okay, fine, bye.
Yes, it is. Basically what I understood is uh, see I am trying to correlate it with the concept of friction. The static friction is always greater than the dynamic friction. Like once you need to get going, after you get going it's obviously easy, but that barrier, the static friction wala jo barrier, that is higher than the dynamic one. So how to overcome that? It was see as you have rightly pointed out, if you're already into a business community, these are the things which people get into it right from their childhood, right? But when it comes to non-business background, we need some extra we need to put in some extra efforts to get that experience which otherwise a business community person can get it.
True, agree. But also very important, fine, by if you are like the first characteristic of entrepreneur is they are not afraid of taking risk, but calculative risk. So if you are risk averse, then it's difficult. Okay. So Nasir Bhai has another question.
Yes. So keeping a
So,
mentor.
So my experience with the startup is again varied. Uh, so like no, with some startup I have to work like a teacher or elder brother or father and make them keep them get going kind of thing, or maybe in discipline, because they are youngsters. They have good idea, they are hardworking, but they are not well organized. And so it depends on what kind of, so that is what is important. What are the pain areas of yours, and which are the areas you cannot focus on, then the mentor would actually come on board and would help you in those areas. So taking example, you are very weak in networking and connecting with potential customers or investors, then mentor would be able to do that. So sometimes there's some of the people, they actually hire me to for the same organization building process, design system processes, developing culture, um, and all these issues related to internal organization. So again, it's up to you to decide which are your strengths and which are your weaknesses. The strength, you should focus on. The weaknesses, you can either have collaboration with a complementary organization, or maybe a mentor would come on board and would bring those, work on those weaknesses, and actually help you in those areas.
Any other question? I think one more question, like when people start their startup, right? They go with registering with the residents. So what is the impact on their way, other logistics? So any commercial factor will be added there?
I think, Afsar bhai, I think I always believe that no, you must have a good chartered accountant friend,
Okay.
because another issue is also managing the finances. In fact, I think Ayaz and Wasim would know that how strict I am about this. No, because what happens, sometimes you don't know the money is going, and some of the startups I worked with, they have a good revenue, but then they had lots of miscellaneous expenses that they were not reported. And because they were not working very closely with chartered accountant, the chartered accountant will not always, but a chartered account friend would actually teach you how to do the documentation, and also will resolve this kind of queries about this, know where to register, how to register, what are these schemes. And even later you can apply for some of the government schemes or some of the private schemes. They actually will be helpful for your documentation. But also managing finance is also another challenge. What I've observed with entrepreneurs, they don't document. In fact, I make sure that all my companies I work with, they also document the number of time they order tea and the cost of the tea what they are ordering also, because sometimes the miscellaneous expenses are so much, and they are underreported or they are not reported. They actually create much more problem of managing finances. So a good chartered accountant would be helpful in registering what kind of registration you should do, what kind of company you should want to, if it's social enterprise, whether it will trust, what would be the structure of the organization or the ownership. And then also they would be helpful in all the documentation, and that would be also helpful for getting the funds later.
Jazakallah. Yeah. So any further questions? I think we are on
Sayed Ali,
time. Okay, I think from Ahmad, any certificate course on finance side, which is bare minimum for a startup. A finance
there are so
handybook.
many courses available. There are entrepreneurship finance kind of courses are available on Coursera.
Okay.
So you can be part of any course. Yeah, I think Google started recently the digital marketing course, and that we shared in our Association of Muslim Entrepreneurs, that helped lots of people. So I think lots of companies like Google and others are actually having some courses for entrepreneurs. Maybe you can be part of them, and they are free.
Okay. Please recommend courses
So
in
as I see, the
marketing.
Coursera edX, sorry, I was talking. Coursera edX has lots of, they have lots of courses. Lots of IIMs are offering lots of courses. Maybe you just search about that. I think, as I said, this Google's digital marketing course became very popular. You can be part of that. Yeah. Sorry, upset.
Okay.
Sayyid
So,
Ali raised his hand.
okay, I think
You wanted to take
overall,
that?
So thank you. Messages are coming. Looks like no more questions. So we are like about the time. It was a very great Q&A. A lot of questions came and very convincing answers came from Brother Abrar. I think that shows his experience in this topic and his research in entrepreneurship. So I think we would love to hear from you on the international business as well sometime later.
Oh, sure.
So,
My thesis was on international entrepreneurship, Afsar bhai.
yeah,
My PhD was on international entrepreneurship, how entrepreneur goes for international market.
yeah.
So my whole
topic
research
is
thesis
business
was on that.
strategies and all, right? I think business policies and business strategies. So I think sometime we'll go with those sessions also. You might be having a big list of sessions. We will take up one by one. And
May I ask one question? Syed Ali here.
yeah, sure.
I'm from Aligarh. I was thinking of opening a software training center here. Do you recommend which area would be useful? Machine learning or blockchain?
I think Aligarh Muslim University is a big institute there, and they have lots of students. Syed Ali bhai, you better do the small survey among the students and find out.
Yeah, I think it's a good start from the survey.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Because there are lots of engineering MBA students are there. They have lots of students. I think they have more than 10,000 students studying in a university. I think if you got in the first round, you might.
Yeah.
Sorry?
More than 30,000.
And then around 13,000, yes. And out of that, for your first 2 batches, you might require 50 students. So just talk to them.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. This is Saif here, and we can discuss offline about this idea of software center at AMU. Sure.
Okay. Brother Saif is also from alumni of Aligarh. So I think he has the more insight into the marketing strategy as well. Definitely.
I'm a resident of Aligarh.
You are a resident of Aligarh. Good. Okay.
Thank you so much, everyone. It was wonderful to be part of this session, and thank you so much, Afsar bhai and Saif Abrar, for the support and help. And thank you so much, the participant, for the engaging discussion. I really appreciate your patience and your curiosity. Thank you so much, Jazakallah.
Yeah. Thanks, Jazakallah, for taking out time from your busy Sundays. Normally Sundays are for family, but taking out time for our professional growth and even in turn helping the community is a great.
In fact, this time is a little odd for me because we are shifting. You were asking where I'm going now. So I'm joining a big private research university in Istanbul. It's called Uzin.
Istanbul. Where is it?
In Turkey, Istanbul, Turkey.
Okay,
there is a university called Uzin. So we are shifting. We're moving with a family. So I'm shifting on 19th of January.
So
we have very chaotic time.
Next session is from Istanbul then.
Yeah, next session will be from Istanbul. Yes.
Inshallah.
So thank you. Just keep praying for me and my family. Inshallah, we'll have a smooth.
Make your journey safe and comfortable and useful for the people in Turkey and the entire globe. Jazakallah.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Abrar, and thanks to all the participants. And the recording will be available at tinyurl.com/mfird. I have already mentioned the link in the chat box. So in a couple of days, expect the recording, inshallah.
Thank you so much, sir. Really appreciate it.
Jazakallah.
Jazakallah, everyone.
Assalamu alaikum.